a really, really cool book, and it's really thick, and I will sign it, and I'll throw in a bunch of swag, and that's why I'm here. I live with bipolar and anxiety disorders, and you know, it affected me in ways that I didn't really realize during the 4 years that I was fighting bipolar disorder. And when I reached recovery, and I defined recovery as living more of my life the way that I want than managing bipolar disorder, I realized that I just had a lot to say, and that I learned a lot, and there was a lot of things that I just didn't like. I just wanted to fix it. I wanted it to be better. I wanted to improve upon it. So I wrote a lot of stuff down in, of course, the book, and I do this, and here's how this works. Aw, thanks, Trisha. Here's how this works. In the comment section, drop your questions. Shorter questions work better. Shorter questions work better because you can pop them right on the screen. But you just drop your comments right onto the screen, your questions right into the comments. We'll push them up on the screen, and I will answer them. And you can ask anything that you want. Sincerely, there's nothing off limits. You're not going to stymie me. You're not going to, for real. In the book, there's stuff about my sex life. Now, that's going to make some people not want to buy it, but for the voyeur in you, for the voyeur in you, this is the book you want. All right, everybody, I believe that the first question is ready. All right, here we go. Just been told I'm in stage 1 psychosis. Any tips for recovery? So the words that I want to key in on are the just been told. If you've just been told, chances are you probably don't know a lot about psychosis, mental illness, managing mental health issues, because a lot of us are sort of behind the 8 ball when we are just diagnosed. I knew absolutely nothing about bipolar disorder until I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and found myself in a psychiatric hospital. So the first thing that I would recommend is to learn all you can about your diagnosis. Learn everything you can about psychosis, learn everything that you can about mental illness, learn everything you can about how our emotions, our mental health, and everything works. You know, sites like psychcentral.com, The Mighty, they do a really good job of giving you good information. I also recommend healthline.com. Just learn as much as you can about your illness. This is very, very vital so that you can ask the right questions of your support system, your doctors, your therapists, everybody that you know. You want to be educated. The next steps that I have towards recovery is to keep an open mind. You're going to hear a lot of things, you know, try this, do this, and you're going to think to yourself, I don't want to, I don't like that. At least that's how I was. You know, people recommended things to me, and by people, I mean, you know, doctors, therapists, support groups, peer supporters. And I was like, no, I don't want to. And I realized that I was being stubborn, that, yeah, maybe I don't want to do it, but I also don't want to have bipolar disorder or psychosis or anxiety. So when it comes to things that we don't want to do, sometimes the best way to get away from the illness that we don't want is to do the recovery steps that we don't want. So I strongly encourage you to keep an open mind, be 100% honest with your doctor, your therapist, your support groups, your peer supporters, and learn as much as you can about your illness so that you can make good decisions and partner with your doctor moving forward. Absolutely best of luck. I know you can do it. This is a community of people who have done it, and I believe in you. Thank you so much, Emily. Remember, drop your short questions in the comment, and the author of Mental Illness is an Asshole and Other Observations, which is me, will answer as many questions as I can. All right. Aw, ask bipolar advocate. Yay. I love it when the comment comes up. All right, are we ready for the next question? Oh, huge shout out to Camera. She is behind the curtain, as it were, doing all of the cool stuff, making all that stuff jump around because she is a badass. Thank you, Camera from The Mighty. Big round of applause. You're going to stand in ovation. I can just feel it. All right, the next question is, how can I help my daughter who is pregnant and not on meds? Are there safe meds for pregnancy? This is a really vital question to ask your doctor. The first thing is there are medications that are okay for pregnancy when monitored and you work with their doctor. Now, that said, not every medication that is okay for your daughter. So I want to be very, very clear that even the medications that are listed as okay might not be okay for your daughter. The reason that you want to work with a psychiatrist or a nurse practitioner or some sort of psychiatric provider is because obviously we need your daughter to be in good shape so that she can be the best possible mom that she can be. And also, 9 months is a long time to go untreated for an illness, and there can be, side effects and drawbacks to that. So it's a uber important to make an appointment with a psychiatrist and tell the psychiatrist that you are pregnant and that you are currently not taking any medications and that you need to see somebody immediately because you want to be in the best physical and mental shape that you can be in. And then work really, really, really hard with your doctor. And then move forward. It's a long road, but you are definitely going to want to be under a doctor's care. And to answer the specific question, there are medications and treatments available for people who are pregnant. You are going to want to work with your doctor to achieve them. All right, thank you, Angela. All right, next question. Why does BPD get misdiagnosed a lot as bipolar? I was told I had bipolar and then later BPD. Now, BPD is borderline personality disorder. The reality is everything gets misdiagnosed as everything because there's no definitive test. It would be absolutely wonderful if we could walk into a doctor's office, stick out our thumb, prick our thumb, push it on a little mat, look under a microscope, and boom, we had our diagnosis. But the reality is that's not how it works at all. It's self-reporting, which can be wrought with issues because sometimes we report incorrectly accidentally. That's just the way that it is. It can also be problematic because maybe we have some of the symptoms, but all the other symptoms haven't come up yet, or again, we forgot to mention them. So I want to tell you that this happens a lot. People get diagnosed with bipolar disorder with psychotic features and they end up having schizophrenia. They get diagnosed with schizoaffective and it's schizophrenia. They get schizophrenia, but it's actually schizoaffective or bipolar with psychotic features. And of course, bipolar disorder being those two poles, the highs and the lows, you can go into a doctor and report all the symptoms of depression and get diagnosed with major depression. But then the mania shows up, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months later, and then boom, that's more information that takes away the major depression and leads you into a bipolar diagnosis. So I'm not 100% sure why borderline is often misdiagnosed as bipolar or why bipolar disorder is often misdiagnosed as borderline, but please understand that this is part of the process. This does happen often, and it's just the reality, and we have to buckle down and move forward and understand that getting the correct diagnosis can take time, but when we get there, that means we get the best treatment, and when we get the best treatment, we can absolutely lead the best life. Thank you so much for this question. All right, the next one is popping up now, and I'm drinking Diet Coke. What do I do if I become so used to feeling unstable that I sabotage myself? Joanna, I love this question because so many people are afraid to admit that they're sabotaging themselves, or so many people don't realize that they're doing it. There's this phrase, misery loves company. It's where miserable people seek out other miserable people so that they can be miserable. Or the way I interpret it, miserable people like me, try to make the people around me miserable because that's what I'm used to and that's how I feel. And strangely, it's comforting. The first step toward resolving that is to admit that you're doing it. Admit it to yourself, admit it to your doctors, admit it to your therapist, admit it to your peers, admit it in a support group, admit it to your friends and family. Just be aware of it and honest that you're doing it. I want you to know I did this. I wanted to be miserable. That misery was the only thing that kept me safe and warm at night because it was like a blanket. I understood it. I knew what to expect. And most importantly, I was never disappointed because I was already miserable. It's not a good way to live. Admitting that you're doing it, confessing to the people around you that you're doing it, and making a conscious effort to stop it. Say to yourself, I'm getting ready to self-sabotage. I'm trying to bring other people down. I can make a better choice, and doing it. Forgive yourself when you make a mistake and fix it as soon as possible, and ask the people around you to remind you when you do it, and don't get mad when they remind you, because yeah, they're gonna have opinions. Those are the best ways to stop self-sabotaging. But I'm telling you, the hardest part is admitting that you're doing it, and you're already there. So I'm uber. You should be uber proud of yourself, Joanna, for admitting it and doing it and being honest about it. So you're so much closer than you realize that you are. Thank you so much. All right, are we ready for the next question? How to handle unemployment with bipolar disorder. So first and foremost, all of the rules of unemployment apply. It doesn't matter if you have bipolar disorder or don't. All of the recommendations for being unemployed without bipolar disorder are really helpful. I think a lot of times that people with bipolar disorder or any mental illness, we tend to try to seek out information that we think is specific to us, and we miss the information that is just good for everybody, whether you have an illness or not. So that's very, very important. Unemployment can cause a lot of time. It can mess up your routine. It can do a lot of things. And the general good advice of, look for a job every day, get up at the same time every day, just like you were working, keep the same schedule, update your resume. All of that is good advice, bipolar or not. Now let's talk about, some specific things with bipolar disorder. One of the things that got me in trouble when I was unemployed and had bipolar disorder was, hang on a second. One of the things that got me confused when I had, or got me in trouble when I had bipolar disorder and I was unemployed, was I just had all this free time. Keeping my schedule was extraordinarily important, and filling that free time. So I found some places to volunteer, some people to help. I asked my family members if there was anything that I could do, any work that I could do. I got up at the same time and I kept my routine, and that helped me move forward. I kept the same meal schedule. I tried to keep as much as my schedule as humanly possible. Now let's talk about practical advice. Health insurance is extremely important for people with any illness, and bipolar disorder is no different. Get on the Affordable Care Act's webpage and find out if you qualify for insurance. Talk to the unemployment office and see what you qualify for. And make sure that you can keep, ask your doctors if they have sliding scales, etc., so that you can keep going to therapy. The number one thing that I hear from people who have bipolar disorder and then suddenly lose their job is they saved money by stopping to take their meds or stopping to go to the doctor. Don't do that. Then you'll have two problems. The symptoms of bipolar disorder will come back and you will be unemployed. So it's of vital importance to prioritize your medical care, because the best way to get another job is to be mentally healthy. That is sort of the big snapshot that I have. Keep moving forward, prioritize your bipolar disorder treatments ahead of everything else. There's the Affordable Care Act to keep your insurance going. There's the Unemployment Office or the Department of Jobs and Family Services. Talk to your doctors, etc., about sliding scales if you have trouble paying. Keep the same routine and look for that job that works. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. All right, the next question is coming, I predict, right now. Hello, Jennifer. What do you do if you can't really be able to interact with friends and family members like we used to before COVID-19? This is the situation that almost the entire world finds themselves in. I would love to tell you, hey, just use Zoom, because Zoom worked for a while. Yeah, now that we're moving into year 2, Zoom is starting to not feel good. And all summer, people recommend meet at parks and sit 6 feet away from each other at a picnic table. But yeah, now it's freezing outside. I want you to know, Jennifer, that everybody, I believe everybody, feels this profound loss because of COVID, and I think that's okay. I think that it's difficult to interact, and phones, texting, Zoom, Facebook Lives, virtual, I think that they are all good things, and we should absolutely continue doing them. But I do think that we need to accept at some point that this is difficult, and it's difficult for everybody, and it's just okay to feel the way that you feel about it. We want to be hopeful because things are improving. The vaccine's out. More and more people are getting them every single day. We're starting to move as a nation. We're taking great strides. I do believe that the end is near. And it's okay to be bogged down by this. Take a deep breath and recognize that you feel normal. That's really the important takeaway in your question. Everything that you're feeling about missing your friends and your family and everything that we're suffering because of COVID-19, these are normal feelings. They're not mental illness feelings. They're not disordered feelings. They're normal. And you're on the same, you're in the same boat as the rest of us, and we're all going through it, and we all support each other and you. Hunker down. We're gonna make it, I promise. All right, are we ready for the next question? Camera is awesome. I feel like we should, like, you know, give her a huge high five. Sorry, I have to drink now. Karen asked, my partner just passed and I can't sleep due to having sleep paralysis. I am very, very sorry for your loss. To the question of sleep paralysis, have you talked to your doctor about it? It's having sleep paralysis night after night after night, to my understanding, and again, I'm not a doctor, it is something that you want to get ahead of. It's not normal to be paralyzed when you sleep, and there are treatments, medications, etc. About it, because sleep is very, very important. I'd recommend following up with a neurologist or a sleep doctor, which is generally a neurologist, and explain what is happening, because this is going to take medical intervention. There's absolutely no support group, or I can offer, go to bed at the same time, sleep hygiene, get a white noise machine. But when it comes to sleep paralysis, that's pretty serious. And in fact, it's very serious. So I would highly recommend making an appointment with a general practitioner, going to urgent care, and getting into a neurologist, because it's very, very serious. And again, I'm very sorry about your partner, Karen, and please follow up with medical care on that, because sleep is important. It's important to our health. It's important to the grieving process, and it's very important to our stability with mental health. So thank you so much. All right, Camera, are we ready for the next question? My daughter was diagnosed with type 2 bipolar at 18. Is it hereditary? The quick answer to this is yes. It is hereditary, but it's not exclusively hereditary. And just because you have bipolar disorder doesn't mean that you will pass it on to your children. And just because you don't have bipolar disorder doesn't mean that your children will not have bipolar disorder. My mom and dad, no mental illness whatsoever, except for thinking that my brother and sister are okay. They're perfectly sane. And I have bipolar and anxiety disorders, and that's just the way it is. That's just my lot in life. So yes, it's hereditary. You should be aware of the risks, but like I said, my parents had very low risk of having a child with bipolar disorder, and here I am, and I've met many, many people with bipolar disorder who have multiple children who are all well into adulthood now, and none of them have any mental illness to speak of. There are no guarantees. That said, yes, it is hereditary. Two, you should be aware of the risks, work with your doctor to discover what those are and make the best choice for you. But there are no guarantees in life. And I just caution people of hearing, oh, it's hereditary, I'm never going to have children, because life is just not that simple. All the things that we tend to worry about are not the things that tend to creep up on us in the middle of the night and go boo. So just be aware of that. Thank you so much, Melina. All right, the next question. What are the best coping mechanisms to help with bipolar disorder? I have a very funny answer to this, so I'm going to say it first, but please stick around and I'll answer sincerely. The best coping mechanisms to help with bipolar disorder are the coping mechanisms that work for you. I know people always smack me when I say that, because they're like, well, give me some ideas. But I do want to say that because so many people hear that there's only a few different coping mechanisms. The truth is there's as many coping mechanisms as there are people. What people do to cope with bipolar disorder really just needs to factor around what is safe and works for you without having negative consequences. For example, if your coping mechanism creates another problem, then that's obviously not the best coping mechanism for you. I find, I like squishy things. I like squishy things. I like to play with stuff with my hands. When I start to get anxious or depressed, or my mind starts to race, or I get like the word salad, I find that focusing on something tactile, something that I can touch or play with is yeah, I know, I pick your nose, is a very good coping skill for Gabe Howard. Other people go for walks. Other people have hobbies. Other people do a lot of other things. They count backwards from 100 to center themselves. All of these things are very good and important coping skills. Some work when the crisis starts. Some are preventative, like diet and exercise is, believe it or not, a coping skill that many of us need to pay more attention to. I don't know that there's any best, because the best coping skill in the world, if it doesn't work for you, is not going to work. Some people, they find fidget spinners to be incredibly annoying, and they don't want to use them. I think they're amazing. I find that anything that can distract my mind and recenter me and give me the opportunity to start thinking more clearly is an excellent coping skill for me. Whether that's counting backwards from a large number, saying the alphabet backwards, playing with my squishy toys, or the other toys I keep on my desk, going for a walk, taking a drink of water, splashing water on your face, or removing yourself from the situation until you are better suited to put yourself back into that situation. All of these things are valuable and vital and worthy of trying, and they're worthy of making your own. I like fidget toys, but I have a friend that takes 2 coins and slides them together next to her ear. I think it's a horrible sound, but the tactile feeling of the 2 coins in her fingers, the challenge of making sure that the coins don't fall out of her fingers, and the sound that it makes in her ear, it absolutely does wonders for her anxiety, racing thoughts, and depression. So don't be afraid to switch it up, try new things, and then go with that. Thank you so much, Kirsten. Is it Kirsten? Yep, Kirsten. Thank you so much, Kirsten. All right, the next question. As a friend to someone who has bipolar disorder, should I tiptoe around certain topics to avoid triggering it? The way this question is worded makes me want to ask follow-up questions, Mary. So whenever you have to tiptoe around your friend or walk on eggshells, it's not an equal friendship, right? That's very problematic. And as somebody who lives with bipolar disorder, I don't want my friends to feel that they have to tiptoe around me or walk on eggshells, or they can't be their authentic self, because that's not much of a friendship. It's, I don't have an equal friend, they don't have an equal friend, and eventually that deteriorates the friendship and causes resentment. And well, that's just kind of a bummer to me. That said, I would be very disappointed if my friends intentionally said things that I have explained to them trigger me or cause me problems. That would be very, very hurtful. So if your friend tells you, hey, I don't want to talk about X, no matter what it is, then yeah, I think it's a very reasonable boundary request not to want to talk about it. If the certain topics are they're treating you poorly, or they're abusing you, or they owe you money, or they're stealing from you, or something like that, then yeah, I don't think that you should avoid those questions at all, because then you're just being taken advantage of, or somebody's using bipolar disorder as an excuse. It's so incredibly tough, right? It's so tough to know when to push it and when not. Give it some thought. Decide if it's a reasonable request. Decide if it's a boundary issue, and then decide from there. The final thing that I want to say on this, however, is if you do decide to bring something up that's triggering, pick your moments. We all have to have uncomfortable conversations with our friends from time to time, bipolar disorder or not. And the time to do that, the time to do that is not in public. It's not at the Christmas party or the holiday party or the birthday party. It's a private conversation one-on-one. And let the person know that this needs to be discussed both for your mental health and your boundaries and your friendship as well as theirs. Be prepared. They may not want to talk about it. They may cut the conversation short and they may go away. And then just try again. Let them know that this is important, because Mary, you're an equal part of the relationship as well. And again, bipolar or not, the rules of friendship apply to us all. But just give it some deep thought. There are definitely subjects that my friends don't bring up around me because they are very triggering, and I like that they are respectful of that. That's how I know they're my friends. All right, thank you so much, Mary. All right, we're going to go to the next question. All right, going to community college student access service. Where did it go? Oh, in college, if there are no accommodations in place for mental health considerations, what can be done to get accommodations surrounding bipolar disorder? There is no accommodations. The student resources doesn't offer. This is the law. There are certain accommodations that they have to provide in disability services. To the best of my knowledge, and again, every state is different, so I want to put a little asterisk there. But to the best of my knowledge, disability services is required for colleges. So I really feel like this is something you should push with administration or ask for the Office of Disability Services, because I believe that they're required to provide this. Ask for a student services person, a student advocate, talk to the administration, talk to the admissions counselor, just talk to whomever you need to talk to and explain that you need somebody that understands disability services because you need reasonable accommodations as provided by just any number of acronyms that the government has come up with. I would do a little more exploring. I'd ask administration. I'd ask admissions. Again, I would just do a little more work on this. And if they don't provide it, one, that's just incredible, and it might necessitate switching colleges or finding some place that's more accommodating to our particular needs. That's very unfortunate if they don't. And I'm hopeful that somebody there provides it, and we just haven't found the right person yet. All right, thank you so much. All right, we have time for a couple of more. Let's pop them up. We'll do like the speed round. All right, here we go. All right. How do you know you have this? I have episodes but can't explain them. So I know that I have it because I went to a doctor. And I had symptoms and people were concerned, and eventually the symptoms became so glaring that somebody noticed them, took me to the emergency room. I was admitted to the psychiatric ward where I spent 3 days, 4 days, 3 nights, 4 days. I didn't know that I was sick at all. I could not recognize them in any way. I had no self-awareness of this. And it was a crisis point that landed me in the emergency room that then landed me into the psychiatric hospital where I was diagnosed. Now, Vicki, you're saying, how do I know I have this? I have episodes, but I can't explain them. Or actually you said, but can explain them. It's important to explain them to explain the episodes to a doctor. When it comes to physical health, if we have a cold or a runny nose or a sore throat or symptoms or inconvenience or we're feeling under the weather, many of us, it's common just to go to the doctor and say, hey, I feel like crap. Or we try to self-diagnose ourselves. We go to the doctor and we say, hey, I think I have the flu, or I think I have pink eye, or I think I have strep throat, all the things that we've heard. And we just ask a doctor about it, and then we explore that with our medical team, and we go to get well. But when it comes to mental health, we feel like we have to be 100% accurate in the diagnosis, know exactly what we're asking for, and then go to the doctor to get it. It doesn't work that way in physical health, and it surely doesn't work that way in mental health. Make an appointment with your general practitioner, go there and say, hey, look, I think I might have bipolar disorder. I think I might have, fill in whatever you blank you have, and then explain why. You may not have bipolar disorder, or you might, but you will never know conclusively until you speak with a doctor and explain why you suspect it and give them as much information as humanly possible. I did not even know to ask, and that led to me being diagnosed in a crisis. I would like better for everybody that, when they suspect something's wrong, they speak to a medical professional and get the help that they need before it reaches the crisis point. So Vicki, I empower you. Make that appointment, get that help. Thank you so much. All right, I think we have time for one more. So make it the best question that you can find. Dun, 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 dun. Camera's looking. I believe in you, camera. Why can't mental illness such as bipolar illness be cured? Debbie, I would love to know. There are, unfortunately, probably hundreds of thousands of things that can't be cured, but definitely just, I would love for mental illness to be cured. I would love for bipolar disorder to go away so that I don't have to deal with it for the rest of my life. It's so very difficult. The reality is I do believe that research is ongoing, and if they can find one, they would let us know. But mental illness doesn't even have a definitive test. We can't get a blood draw and look under a microscope. We can't get a saliva swab. We can't. I mean, look at COVID. You can make an appointment, get that stick shoved up your nose, and within an hour they can tell you whether or not you have a global pandemic illness. But bipolar has been around for the beginning of time, and we still don't understand a lot about it. I do believe that there will be a cure eventually. I really, really do. I also believe that there'll be a definitive diagnosis. And one of the ways that we get there is to advocate. We must advocate. We must continue telling politicians and pharmaceutical companies and doctors that we are people deserving of care, and that we want to pay more attention to this. We want to understand it better, and we want to educate and update the people around us, because it's just so incredibly frustrating that we're always getting care behind the 8 ball. And it's frustrating that there's not a definitive diagnosis, and it's frustrating that there's not a cure. And I think that if we keep pushing, we will get there. And that's why mental advocates like you and me and everybody watching need to exist and keep advocating and keep explaining that we need care and resources and a cure. Thank you so much, Debbie. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. My name is Gabe Howard, and as the little thing says, I wrote Mental Illness is an Asshole and Other Observations. You can get it at my website, signed, gabehoward.com. And you know what's cool? I will throw in like a whole bunch of free stuff, like, I don't know, pens, annoying stuff. It's like 380 pages of awesome. Listen to the sound it makes when I drop it on the floor. No idea if the microphone picked that up. Thank you so very much, everybody. Please share this broadcast with your friends. The replay will be around forever. If you like my voice and you want to hear more, you can head over to psychcentral.com/show or look up Inside Mental Health on your favorite podcast player. Absolutely free. Thank you all so very much for being here, and I'll see you in a couple weeks.